If Ruan Mei basic attacks this enemy right here, Himeko will end up in a follow-up attack loop. And this is possible, voila, so she will now do infinite follow-up attacks. And this is possible in the latest purification in wave 2 of the second node. And this purification lasts until the 2nd of February. And by the way, Himeko is the E0, Ruan Mei is E0, and even Fugue is E0 too. And Asta is just a filler slot, so you can put wherever you want actually. But I have some recommendations for you, which I will show you in a minute. And this loop I had like on the second day of this purification, but I didn't know exactly what was happening, because I want to explain it to you as simple as possible and not give you some information I think it works because of this. I want to give you like concrete evidence why it works. And luckily we have the showcase here. I managed to catch this one, unfortunately without sound though, but doesn't matter. I think you have heard her flip attack sound quite a lot of times the last few weeks. And voila, that was it. Himeko did a lot of flip attacks, like infinitely. She ended up in a loop. And all this happened in just one action just before this purification buff expired, which is also needed for this loop to be done. So now allow me to explain it to you as easy as possible so you can do it too. So we are in purification, the latest one, which lasts until the 2nd of February, so 4.5 weeks left. We are in node 2, wave 2. To keep things a bit more neat, we can go down and work with this. So we got the boss in the middle and the other enemies beside him. Those small enemies are of two types. We got the gunner, so one gun enemy, we can call him gun, and we got a lancer, we can call him lance. And that's the same for the other two, like this. We need to enter this wave with Himeko having 2 of her stacks. So she needs to start with 2 stacks. Why? I will explain that to you in a moment. We also need to understand how the respawning works. It basically is gun, lancer, gun, lancer, gun, lancer the whole time. When I kill a gun and a lancer now at the same time, then now a lancer will come and a gun will come in his place. When I kill them, then a gun will come and a lancer will come. That's it basically. That's what happens the whole time in this purification. That's all you need to know. Alright? So now let's understand their toughness, because that's where the wall Himeko looping happens. Since now we got Fugue on the team too, which makes this wall looping possible. So with the gun user, his white toughness is 20. His exo toughness is 8, which is 40% of his original toughness. So 40% of 20 is 8. When you reduce the white toughness to 0, then the exo toughness is available. For the lancer, we got him at 30 and toughness is 12. For the wall loop thing to be possible, we want to have Himeko, her follow-up attacks do minus 15 toughness reduction the whole time. It originally is always 10 toughness, but because of the 50% weakness break efficiency of Ruan Mei, we can make it 15. You can also make it 15 by using E1 Fugue, then you don't need Ruan Mei, since Fugue's E1 gives the ally you target with Fugue's skill 50% weakness break efficiency too. So we enter the battle with 2 stacks of Himeko's stacks. So that means we need to weakness break someone once to make a loop happen. And the one we want to weakness break once to make the wall loop happen is the lance enemy. And when we weakness break this lance enemy, we do not want him to die. That's very important to remember. Since if he dies, the Himeko loop won't happen. So how do we weakness break this one once without him dying? That's by reducing the white toughness bar of him to 0. How I did it is by using 2 basic attacks. Since I got Ruan Mei on the team, and now everyone's basic attack does, instead of 10 toughness reduction, 15 toughness reduction. So I attacked this enemy twice. So we got minus 15 of one basic attack. That leaves the white toughness to 15, but the purple toughness, so the extra toughness, nothing happens. And now we basic attack him again with the toughness reduction of 15. Bam. Now he gets weakness broken. 0 white toughness left. And for the exo toughness, nothing changes, since he still needs to be alive. So this gives Himeko now plus 1 stack, and she will do a follow-up attack now. So we got this to 3. But if Himeko does her follow-up attack now, the loop won't happen, because we also want this gun enemy to be weakness broken by that toughness of Himeko's follow-up attack, which does minus 15, to weakness break this gun user twice. And if Himeko did now her follow-up attack, the gun user won't even get weakness broken, since his white toughness is 20. So we need to set this gun user up too. So before we do this basic attack on the right, this already needs to be happened. So he needs to be basic attacked by someone as well. So this is step 1, step 1. Step 2 is another basic attack of someone else. So we got basic attack gun user once, basic attack lancer twice. So step 1 and then step 2. And now Himeko's fourth attack will happen. And we can call that step 3. So now Himeko does her fourth attack. She has now 3 stacks. What happens? It does minus 15 toughness reduction. So this brings the white toughness to 0. And this brings the exo toughness to 0. So we get how many stacks from this step 3? From this fourth attack? Plus 1 here, plus 1 here. So 2 stacks in total. But the fourth attack also hits the lancer, of course. And his exo toughness gets reduced to 0. So plus 1 stack for Himeko as well. Voila. So that is another 3 stacks for Himeko. But this minus 15 toughness for Himeko's follow-up attack. So we can say this. Minus 15 FUA, minus 15 FUA. That is step 3. That happens automatically. This toughness reduction also applies to the other 2 enemies on the field. So what happens to them now? Well, this happens. So we got the gun user. He starts with 20. He starts his exo with 8. We got the lancer. He starts his toughness with 30. And he starts his exo with 12. Step 3 happens. So the minus 15 follow-up attack from Himeko happens, which is step 3. So the toughness of this gun user now becomes 5. And his exo is still at 8. What happens to the lancer? He also gets hits with the follow-up attack, of course. So now he has 15 white toughness left and still 12. And with step 3, this lancer has died and this gun user has died now. So now they get replaced by other enemies. So another lancer and he becomes a gunner right now. This is the state of the field now. But since we got 3 stacks because of step 3, so 1, 2, 3, Himeko will do another follow-up attack now. She will hit these 2 enemies with that follow-up attack, 2. And you might now notice the loop. This white toughness gets reduced to 0. We get from these 2 weakness breaks 2 stacks for Himeko. The lancer to his extra toughness, nothing happens. It says 12. But his white toughness, of course, gets reduced to 0. So now we get a stack for Himeko here, plus 1. And this is step 4. Voila. And this is the loop. But of course, these 2 enemies now got hit as well of this step 4 follow-up attack. So the lancer starts with his 30 to white toughness, 12 exo toughness. The gun user has 8 exo, 20 white. They get hit with step 4 right here. So we can copy paste that. The lancer is now left with 15 exo toughness. Nothing changes. The gun user is now left with 5 toughness again, 8 exo. But since we got from this step 4 3 stacks for Himeko again right here, she will now do a follow-up attack again, get 3 stacks from this lancer and gun again, just like how it was right here. The same case, and that loop will continue basically infinitely, well, until the boss dies. The only difficult thing really was that this lancer really should die on his first weakness break of Himeko's follow-up attacks. And that is right here. And to make that possible, I was using the second equipable buff of Purification, which made Himeko's follow-up attacks do a lot of damage. And for every enemy hit with that follow-up attack, she did some extra set amount of damage to that enemy and adjacent enemies. And this buff is active when you're in this super sane state of a Purification, which is a must. Since I was never to kill that lancer with Himeko's follow-up attacks with the third buff, and this third buff is really not that helpful since your action gets advanced forward when you weakness break an enemy. But Himeko does so many follow-up attacks in the second wave that this advance forward is not really that needed. So I preferred the second one. But if you can kill that lancer with Himeko's follow-up attacks on that weakness break with the third buff, then you can go for it. And you might notice that you don't need to use 2 basic attacks actually to get his toughness to 0 of this enemy on the initial weakness break, the first step. You can also use a skill, which also does 30 toughness reduction if you have that 50% Ruan Mei weakness break efficiency or E1 Fugue. But the thing I noticed is that this lancer died immediately then, since I don't want him to die at the start. She only needs this stack here, so she can start follow-up attacking. If she enters wave 2 already with 3 stacks, then she will follow-up attack everyone, and everyone will have their toughness reduced already, and the loop won't work anymore. You need to reset up everything. It's really difficult. So that's why I did just 2 basic attacks. But since a skill kills this enemy, I don't want him to die. I need that extra stack for Himeko here, so she can start her loop. But the next follow-up attacks, of course, need to kill the enemy on the first weakness break, which should happen as you can see here, since we need to keep up that respawn rate of the enemies up so Himeko can get stacks the wolf time, which you can also see in the showcase. So I can make Himeko her full attack do 15 toughness reduction with either Ruan Mei or E1 Fugue. So you can do this loop without Ruan Mei actually if you have E1 Fugue, but it will become a bit more difficult to set up everything. So these initial steps, so step 1 and step 2, since now everyone's basic attack won't do 15 toughness reduction anymore, but will do 10 toughness reduction. And I haven't really thought about that, how to set that up, since if you do 2 basic attacks on this gun user, he will be weakness broken, and you don't want that to happen, since Himeko should weakness break with her full attack. And if you just attack this gun user once with the basic attack, which does 10 toughness reduction, he will have 10 toughness left, but that is not enough for Himeko's full attack to weakness break him twice. So now he has 10 toughness left and 8 exo toughness, and Himeko's full attack will now reduce this by 15, so he will have 3 exo toughness left. So it's a bit more complicated, so I just used Ruan Mei, basic attack this one once with the basic attack for that 15 toughness reduction, and basic attack this lens twice, and the loop starts. But if you can figure it out, just do it, let me know, let everyone know in the comments. And if you have Ruan Mei and E1 Fugue, then now Himeko's full attack will do minus 20 toughness reduction, which will weakness break this gun user the whole time, since his initial white toughness is always 20. And that is not possible, I think, setting up a loop, but I haven't really thought about that either. But if you can find a way, let us know. And that's why I think Honkai Star really should add enable and disable for Eidolon. So if you have already E1 Fugue, you should be able to disable it, so you can always experiment. It's really a shame that they don't have that. And if you have E4 Himeko, which means that when you weakness break enemy with Himeko, you now get 2 stacks. That alone won't be enough without Ruan Mei or E1 Fugue, since you really need that weakness break efficiency to even weakness break anyone. But maybe it's possible, I don't know. I'm just using my E0 Ruan Mei, E0 Fugue, E0 Himeko. And why do I have Asta in the team? Because Asta gave that really nice speed for the whole team. Since I noticed that without that extra speed or that dance, that the pure fiction buff was running out before I entered wave 2. I also tried to do it with Natasha. It also worked once with her. It was way more difficult. Asta really made it way easier to have that pure fiction buff up when you start the loop. So you get the equipable buffs effects, as you can see right here. And Asta is also really nice because her skill does bounces, and the bounces really synergize with this pure fiction buff, since every time you attack an enemy with your skill, those attacked enemies get a set amount of damage, which is really nice. And if you're in the Super Saiyan form, it also does adjacent damage now, every enemy you have hit with your skill. So Asta really pops off in wave 1 and wave 3. But all in all, basically, just make sure you have Ruan Mei, Fugue, and Himeko in your team. All of them E0. Basic attack the gun user once. Basic attack the lance user then twice. And of course, enter the battle with Himeko with 2 stacks. And the loop will happen. That's it basically. And of course, you need to have the pure fiction buff active to get that extra damage from the full attacks with the equipable buff too. And when you do that second basic attack on the Lancer, he should not die, he should survive that. But in my case, he always survived, luckily. So when you have all of that set up, the loop will happen. As easy as that, basically. And hereby the character builds of my team I used. Like I said, you can change up Asta with whoever you want, but I preferred Asta because her speed is pretty nice and her skill synergizes with the pure fiction buffs, making wave 1 and wave 3 way easier. But attack percentage she gives the whole team is quite useless because it is more like a super break team this, but still, it's no biggie, it works. And I want to show you these builds in game, but whenever I press on Himeko's light cone, the game crashes. It happens on my phone and it happens on my tablet. So I don't know what the hell is happening with Honkai Star Rail. It is quite unstable right now. Sure, with my phone I can understand it because it's a Samsung Galaxy Flip, it's quite the old one. But for a tablet I don't understand. It's a Samsung Tablet Ultra. It's quite new. It's from last year, so it should work. There's no performance problems. I don't know what's happening with Honkai Star Rail. It's quite unstable the last time. So that also happened with when I was doing my push-ups for who was it? It was for Sunday or for Fugue? I don't know. I think it was for Fugue. Yeah, it was for Fugue. I lost my 50-50 on Clara, so I want to make her E3 now because I got her on Eidolon 3 now. but the game crashed the whole time. So I was like, all right then, that's something you may have seen when you were watching the push-up one pull challenge I did for that. It was quite weird. The Honkai Star is kind of getting unstable lately. I don't know, kind of weird. But still, hereby the builds, you may already be seeing them. So that's the Himeko loop for this pure fiction. I thank you for your time and see you the next time. Bye.